Okay, so this is lesson 27. Okay, so what I want you to do right now, guys, is just kind of kick back and watch for a second. Okay, you don't have to write any of this stuff down. So let's say you were taking quiz 4, which is coming up, and they asked you to solve this. Okay, so then you could say, okay, well, I'm going to factor that to x and x. Signs are the same, they're both negative. 1 and 10 multiply to give you 10, and 2 and 5 multiply to give me 10, and I'm trying to add to get an 8. Well, neither one of those adds to give me 8, okay? So it doesn't factor. So then last time we said, okay, well, let's use the quadratic formula, okay? So maybe, why don't you do this, guys? On your paper, draw a line maybe like 2/3 of the way down for me, okay? And then write down the equation, x a second minus 8x plus 10 equals 0. And let's write this down. Let's write review, and then let's write down quadratic formula. Okay, so if I was using the quadratic formula, I would have x equals, b's a negative 8, so negative b is a positive 8, negative 8 squared. Remember, I never want you to write it like that because you're going to mess up. So just write down what negative 8 squared is, which is 64. Minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is a 10, all over 2 times a, that's 2 times 1, which is a 2, okay? Now, I want you to remember that the next thing that I want you to do is to grab your calculator and put that in your calculator, okay? So everybody go 64 minus 4 parenthesis 10, close it off, enter, and you get a 24. So that gives you x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 24 all over 2. Now, I can't reduce anything right now because on this term right here, there's no number outside of the root. But what you can do is you can break your 24 down. So let's do that. So 24 is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6, and 6 is 2 times 3. So these two 2's come out as a single 2. So now you have x equals 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 6 all over 2. Now remember our discussion about friends yesterday, right, you guys? Look, here's a person, here's a person, here's a person. 2 goes into all those numbers that are on the outside, so we can reduce. So we go 2 goes into 8 4 times, 2 goes into 2 1 time, 2 goes into 2 1 time, okay? And then remember, dividing by 1 doesn't change anything, so that's not necessary. And multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. So the answer is 4 plus or minus the square root of 6, and you're done, okay? That's what we did last time. Who says, I understand everything you just did? I feel really good about that. Great. Okay, so today we're going to learn a different method that does the same thing. We're going to end up with the same answer because the problem's the same. It's just a different method, okay? It's called completing the square. The steps are over here on the right-hand side. So step number 1, move the constant to the right-hand side, everything else to the left-hand side, okay? And then I want you to write right here, I want you to write, not yet, don't do it. So everybody go x to the second minus 8x equals negative 10, okay? And then it says, factor out the leading coefficient if it's anything other than 1. Okay, so if you look in front of the x to the second, that's the leading coefficient. There's nothing there, it's 1, okay? So I don't have to take anything out, okay? And then what I want you to do right here on number 2 is I want you to put add blanks, okay? So I don't really have the process of adding the blanks in anywhere. Okay, so when you do this, you go x to the second minus 8x plus blank equals negative 10 plus blank. So all I'm doing is adding a blank on each side, okay? Now what you do is this, okay? The linear term is that number right there, which is an 8, okay? You take down your 8, and this is what you do. You don't have to write this down when you do it, but let's just write it right now so you understand. The first thing you do is divide it by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is a 4. Then you take that number that you get, which ours is a 4, and then you square it. 4 squared is 16. So divide it by 2 and then square it. So this blank is going to be a 16, and this blank is going to be a 16. Okay? And then the next step is step 4. Actually, step 4 is to balance it, so that's put 16 and 16. Step number 5 is to simplify the left and factor the right. Ours is actually factor the left and simplify the right, but anyway. So all I'm going to do right here is just factor on the left-hand side. So it goes to an x. Do you see how this 8x right here is a negative, guys? I'm going to put my negative right there. And then all you have to do is see that 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. So it looks like that. And then a negative 10 and a positive 16 is a positive 6. Okay, now I want you to stop right there for just a second. Everybody just kind of freeze, okay? I have people ask me, how did you get from that step to that step? What did you do? Well, we factored, okay? You don't have to write any of this down. I just want you to look. If I have x minus 4 squared, that means x minus 4 times x minus 4. If I multiply that out, I get x to the second minus 4x plus 16, which gives me x to the second minus 8x plus 16. So this is exactly the same as that. I just factored it. Okay, who says I understand? I'm with you. Let me see how we're feeling. Great. Now, I don't want that squared anymore. So to get rid of squared, I square root both sides. So everybody do that. So now I have x minus 4 equals, if you're the one that takes the square root, you guys, what comes right after the equal sign? Tell me that. What comes right after the equal sign? Plus or minus. Thank you, Miranda. Plus or minus, and then you have a square root of 6. Then to solve for x, you move your 4 over, so you have 4 plus or minus the square root of 6. That's your answer. And notice it's exactly the same answer that I got when I did the quadratic formula. Well, of course it's going to be the same answer. It's the same problem. Okay? Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one. We're going to go really slowly so everybody's good. Okay? First of all, everybody freeze right here for a sec, okay? First of all, I noticed that my leading coefficient is a 1. So I know I'm not going to have to take out any numbers. If that was like a 2 or 3 or anything, I would have to factor that number out, but I don't have to. So everybody do this. X to the second minus 8x plus blank equals, okay? Then this 1 is going to come over to the other side. So you have negative 1 plus blank. So all I've done is move my 1 over to the other side and added some blanks. That's all I did. Okay, who says I'm good with that step? Let me see how we're doing. Okay, the linear term is an 8. You divide it by 2. 8 divided by 2 is a 4. Then you square it. 4 squared is 16. Okay, that is not the same exact problem, right? No. Okay, 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to add 16 over here, and I'm going to add 16 over here. Okay, now everybody freeze right here for just a second. I'm going to ask you a question. The leading coefficient is not really 8. It's negative 8. Why didn't I say this to you? Take the negative 8, divide it by 2, you get a negative 4. Take the negative 4, raise it to the second. Why didn't I say that? Go ahead, honey. It's always going to be positive no matter what. And pulling that negative in and doing all that to the negative is just going to be more difficult. So just know whatever the sign is, you don't have to involve it. Thank you, Jesse. Then you factor the left. So it goes to an x. This sign's a negative. It goes right there. The square root of 16 is a 4. Close it off, and it's squared is equal to a negative 1 plus 16 is 15. Every person in this room, tell me what to do now. Talk to me. Square root it. Thank you. So then I have x minus 4 equals. Everybody in the room, tell me what comes right after my equal sign. Plus or minus the square root of 15. Now the 15 won't simplify. I don't have any pairs I can pull out. So now all I'm going to do is just pull my 4 over. So my answer is 4 plus or minus the square root of 15. And that's my answer. okay? Now, they want it as an exact answer, but they also want it as a decimal, okay? So everybody grab your calculator and let's put this in as a decimal, okay? So look what you do. Everybody do this with me because we're going to find both of them. I'm going to show you a little trick that helps you, okay? Everybody go 4 plus second x squared, 15, close it, enter, and they want us to round it 2 places. So that would be 7.87. Then put a comma. Don't touch your calculator, okay? Don't clear it. Everybody hit up and then go right. Then change the plus to a minus. So just hit minus right there. Then hit enter and you get 0.13 is 2 digits. Now don't clear your calculator. Hold it right there, okay? This is going to be on your quiz. Look how easily you can check this. Right now, everybody do this with me. Hit store, enter. Then go to the original problem, put the left-hand side in, and make sure you get a 0. So everybody go membar, enter, x squared, minus 8, membar, enter, plus 1, enter. I got a 0. I just checked the 0.13. Then you can do the same thing to the 7.87. You can check it and make sure you're good, okay? Who says, I understand that completely? Give me some feedback where we're feeling, okay? Good. Okay, let's do this one. Nice and slowly, okay? Step number 1, move your 7 over and add some blanks. This coefficient's a 1, so I know I don't have to factor anything. So I'm going to go x to the second plus 6x plus blank equals. Pull the 7 over to the right and it becomes a positive plus blank. Okay, take your linear term, which is a 6. The linear term is always the one that's with the x. Divide it by 2, you get a 3. 3 to the second is a 9. So I have a 9 here, and I have a 9 here. Now I'm going to factor. You guys, this always factors so easily. Look what you do. The x a second goes to an x. Do you see how that second sign is a plus? That's always going to go right there. The square root of 9 is a 3. Close your parenthesis. It's going to be squared is 9 plus 7, which is 16. Okay? Now I'm going to square root both sides, and I get x plus 3 equals plus or minus. The square root of 16 is a 4. Okay? Now I want to talk to you about something. Do you see how the square root went completely away? There is no square root. That's unusual. And we're going to talk about what it means in just a second. I want you to try to think about, if that square root goes away, what is that really telling me about this problem? But let's go ahead and finish this. Okay, so bring your 3 over. So it's -3 plus or minus 4. You guys, you can never answer like that. You have to keep going. So that means a -3 plus 4 or a -3 minus 4. The 4 could be a plus or it could be a minus. -3 plus 4 is a 1. -3 minus 4 is a -7. There's my answer. Does anybody know the answer to that question I asked you? If this square root goes completely away, what does that mean about the problem? Go ahead, Miranda. Both of you girls, you said it at the same time, and I love it. Like literally in unison, they said it. You could have factored this thing, okay? So just very quickly, I want to factor it. Let's go from the beginning. Look at this. The x a second goes to an x and an x. The 7 goes to a 7 and a 1. Signs are different. Biggest is a positive. 7 and 1 multiply to give me 7 and subtract to give me 6. If I set that equal to 0, I get x equals 1, x equals -7, exactly the same thing. I want to ask you a question. What if I took this problem and I did the quadratic formula? What would my answers be? Come on, guys. The same. It's the same problem. So you could factor it. You could complete the square. You could do the quadratic formula. You're going to get the same thing no matter how you do it. Okay? Obviously, factoring is the easiest if you notice that it factors. Okay? All right, here we go with question C. I want you to stick with me closely. Okay? Here we go. First thing I want you to notice is this. The second you look at this problem, I want you to go, okay, I've got a 2 in the front. So I know it's going to be more complicated, okay? So look what you're going to do nice and slowly. You're going to take that 52 and you're going to pull it that way. So everybody write 2x to the second plus 4x equals 52. Okay, looks like that. And now you say, I cannot complete the square with that 2 sitting there. So I have to take out the 2 and then complete the square. So out of just those two things, not out of the 52, you take out just the number that's in front, which is a 2. You do not take out an x. I know you could take out an x if you wanted to, but we're not going to. We're going to complete the square, so it needs to say squared. So 2 divided by 2 is a 1, x squared. 4x divided by 2 is a 2x plus blank. Okay, looks like that. Who says, I'm with you? Let me see how we're doing. Okay, good. Take the linear term, which is a 2. Divide it by 2, you get a 1. Raise it to the second, you get a 1. So that's going to be a 1. This blank on the other side is not a 1. That is not what's supposed to go there on this particular problem. Someone tell me why it's not a 1 and what it's really supposed to be. Does anybody know? It is a 2. Why is it a 2? Yeah, if you distributed that 2 through, it looks like we're adding 1, but we're really adding 2 to that side because you're multiplying the 1 by a 2. So this is really supposed to be a 2. Good. Now let's factor. So you have a 2. Now I'm going to factor that, guys. So the x to the second goes to an x. The next sign's a plus. The square root of 1 is a 1. And the whole thing squared is equal to 52 plus 2 is 54. You could square root right now. I would not square root right now. What would you do? Divide by 2. Get rid of that 2. Sure. So you have x plus 1 squared equals 27. Much easier now, right? Square root it. So you get x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 27. Move your 1 over, and you get x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 27, and you're done. That's it. Okay, yes, honey?
Do you go farther on 27?
Oh, you do go further. Yes, 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 yes. We are not done. Thank you, Miranda. Okay, everybody write down the 27, and we actually have pairs on that 27. So 27 is 3 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So these two 3's come out as a single 3. So my answers are negative 1 plus or minus 3 square root of 3, and now we're done. Good. Good. Okay, let's do another one, nice and slowly. Okay. First thing I want you to do is to take that 24 over to the right-hand side and make it a positive. So you have 3x to the second plus 12x equals 24. Now I'm just telling you, on your homework and even on your quiz that you're about to take, you know, next week or whenever, if you skip that step, I'd be okay with it. Okay? So then the next thing is to take out the 3, just out of those guys. Okay, so take out a 3, and you're left with x to the second plus 4x plus blank equals 24 plus blank. Don't take out more than a 3. Don't take out the x, just the 3, and the 3 does not come out of the 24. Okay, now let's fill in our blanks. 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to put a 4 right here. I do not balance it with a 4. Somebody tell me what I balance it with. A 12. Yes, 4 times 3 is 12. Good. So now I have a 3, and I'm factoring this. So the x to the second goes to an x. The middle sign's a plus. The square root of 4 is a 2. The whole thing squared is equal to 24 plus 12 is 36. What would you do now? Just tell me. Divide. Yeah, 36. I would divide 3 into 36. So now you have x plus 2 squared is 36 divided by 3, which is 12. Tell me what to do now, everybody. square root, good. Okay, so now you have x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. The 2 comes over and becomes a negative, so it's negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 12, but 12 is going to have pairs. So 12 is 2 times 6, 6 is 2 times 3, these two 2's come out, so my answer is negative 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 12, and I'm done. Square root of 3, thank you. I love how you guys don't let me get away with anything. It's a 3. Like that, okay? Who says, I totally get this? I get it, it's easy, I'm good. Okay, great. Now, we only have 2 more. Actually, we have 3 more. I was going to have you do it, but I'm actually not going to do that, okay? Look at question E. So it's just so bad when you look at it. It's bad. Why is it bad? That negative, the biggest exponent has a negative sign. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to first rearrange things. I'm going to take both of those things and I'm going to bring them that way. So now I'm going to write 2x to the second minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. Now I'm going to start doing the rest. Okay, so I'm going to bring my 12 over now. So now I've got 2x to the second minus 4x equals 12. You do it. Go ahead. See if you can do it. I said, yeah, think of what the next step is. Okay, here's ready. Look up for me, would you? I made a mistake. I did it on purpose. I want you to look forward, okay? Do me a favor and stop writing for just a second. I want you to look forward. So once we got to here, then I wrote 2x to the second minus 4x plus blank equals 12 plus blank. 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. Do it over here. Now take out the 2, and I'm left with x to the second minus 2x plus 2 equals 16. Then I try to factor. The x to the second goes to an x. This is a minus. Now the problem is the 2 is not a perfect square. Nothing nice squared gives me 2. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. Can somebody tell me what I did wrong? This is the number one mistake that people make. Tell me what I did. Go ahead.
Take out the 2 before you started factoring.
Well, it wasn't before I started factoring. You're exactly right. You know what you're saying. I didn't take out the 2 before I completed the square. So I completed the square and then took out the 2. We're supposed to take out the 2 and then complete the square. And it matters. Who says, I understand what you're saying? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, now watch me do it correctly. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. So first you take out the 2 and then you complete the square. So look, take out a 2 and I'm left with x to the second minus 2x plus blank equals 12 plus blank. 2 divided by 2 is a 1. 1 to the second is a 1. I have to balance it with a 2. So then I have a 2 and an x. The negative goes here. Square root of 1 is 1. The whole thing squared. 12 plus 2 is 14. Divide by 2. So I have x minus 1 squared equals 7. Square root. X minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 7. Move your 1 over. 1 plus or minus the square root of 7. And that's my answer. Who says I got it by myself? Let's see. Okay, awesome. If you messed it up, it's okay. Just fix your notes and make sure you've got it in there correctly. Okay? Okay, let's do question F. I want you to do F by yourself. Go ahead. From the beginning. And it's ugly. Listen, it's ugly right now. So fix it. The very first thing I want you to do is to fix it. Okay? Okay, you ready? Look up for me. There's your answer. X equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 7. Who says I did that on my own? Raise your hand. Okay, if you did it right, you understand the lesson. If you missed it, it's okay. We're just learning. So look through the steps that I did. First of all, I moved everything to the right-hand side and changed all the signs, basically. Moved my 9 over, it became a positive. Take out a 3, you're left with x to the second plus 4x plus blank equals 9. 4 divided by 2 is a 2, 2 to the second is a 4. 4 times 3 is 12, that goes on the other side. Then I factored, goes to an x and a plus, square root of 4 is 2, the whole thing squared. 9 plus 12 is 21. Divide by 3, you get a 7. Square root it, x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 7. Move your 2 over, it becomes a negative. There's your answer. Okay, all right, one more. X minus 3 squared equals 64. Tell me what you do right here to this thing, guys. Square root. Yep, everybody take the square root. So you have x minus 3 equals, tell me what comes right after the equal sign? Plus or minus. Square root of 64 is, what's that? It is 8. So you have x equals 3 plus or minus 8. 3 plus 8 is 11. 3 minus 8 is a negative 5. There are your answers and you're done. Okay? Okay, that's it, you guys. That is it.